everybody. Well, lots of you are struggling with the second set of questions, harder questions using trigonometry. So I'm going to give you some pointers without telling you the actual answers. Set up your page with your ratios at the top. So sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Now you know this only works with right-angled triangles, and here, questions 1 and 2, we don't have a right-angled triangle. So we first have to form that. So the first one here, we've got an isosceles. Now a fact you know about isosceles is that when you split them down the middle, that cuts the bottom line in half. So if we make a right-angled triangle, and I would always suggest that you share it, split it out so that you can see it clearly. So I've done that in colour here. So I've got a 90 degrees at the bottom. Now I can use my right-angled triangle, my trigonometry. These two sides are equal because it's isosceles, so I've got a 13 centimetre there as well. So now I've got to find this height. So I need to use this side. No, sorry, I'm not finding the height, am I? I'm finding this side down here because this is my question. I've been asked to find how long is this whole line. So I'm going to find this bit, double it, and I'll have the whole thing. So which ratio are we going to use? Well, we need to use this side and this side. So our angle is here. This is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90, and this one is adjacent to the angle. So we're going to use adjacent and hypotenuse. That's cosine. So we're going to use the cosine of 72 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. You put your numbers in. The cos of 72 equals adjacent, which is our x, or half of our x, and the hypotenuse, which is 13. To get the x by itself, how do you get rid of divide by 13? Yes, you times by 13. Now when you come over here, don't just type in cos of 72 times 13, because that'll give you an angle which is whatever 72 times 13 is. You need to find the cos of 72, press equals, then times it by 13, or put a bracket around it at least, and then you'll get your answer. For this shape here, again, we need to find a right-angled triangle so that we can use our SOHCAHTOA. All right, so where can we see a right-angled triangle? Well, they told us it's a rectangle. They want us to answer what the length of that side, so we're going to use that side. And look, you can make a right-angled triangle. We've got this length of 18. We've got the length that they want. The only thing we don't have is an angle inside. So they've told us this one. Now, if we know that that's 62, what happens when you cut a rectangle like that is that we've got an isosceles triangle. So if this one is 62, we can figure out how big these two angles here are. How big are these two angles? So we'd have to do 180, take away 62, that's a whole triangle, take away this top one, leaves us with 118. So that means these two angles have to make 118, so that's 59 degrees for each of these, 59 degrees. Now if that's a right angle there, because it's a rectangle, they told us that, if this one's 59, how big has this angle got to be? 59 and 1 makes 60, so it's got to be 31, hasn't it? To make it all up to be a 90-degree angle of the corner. And then we've got an angle inside our right-angled triangle. I'm going to set it out here so I can see it really clearly. So if I've got a 31 degrees in there, this is the side I want to find. There's the 18. Label up your sides. This is obviously the hypotenuse. The 18 is opposite, and the x is adjacent. So when we're not going to use the hypotenuse because it's not our question and it doesn't give us any numbers, opposite over adjacent is tan. So we're going to use the tan of our 31 is opposite over adjacent. And then we just pop our numbers in. Now this one has the adjacent on the bottom. So tan of 31 equals opposite, which is 18, over adjacent, which is x. So now this one, slightly more difficult. It's just got one more algebra step in it. To get the x by itself, get rid of this fraction form. So times it by x, and we do the same thing to this side, times it by x. So now we've got the tan of 31 times by x equals, what's left over here? 18. If we want the x by itself, how do we get rid of times by tan 31? Divide by tan 31. Do the same thing to this side. So we'll be left with x equals 18 divided by tan 31. So use your calculator correctly and you'll do fabulously on that one. For the last question, let's come back to our picture here. For this last question, they tell you the information at the top. They say it's a right-angled triangle, ABC, that's the big one. AD is a bisector of the angle down here. So if it's bisected that angle, how big is the whole angle? Well, in my case here it says it's 19 is this half, so the whole thing has to be 38. And then you've got your right-angled triangle with your missing angle. So, best of luck.